I'm going to tell you about some of my recent favorite accessories for video production, and this video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best place for filmmakers to showcase their work on the internet. Let's start with the most recent thing that I got is the battery case for the iPhone 11 Pro. I was a little hesitant because, I've got the Max phone. It was already pretty big. Now it's really big, but now my battery life is 2 days. Even if I'm shooting a lot of video, like at the end of the day, the phone is still at 100%. And that would be enough. That's what was available in previous batteries, but now we also have a dedicated shutter button. Press and hold this button, and we're shooting a video. I'm recording, and it's incredibly fast. I've found this especially useful because we go skiing, and when you're wearing gloves, you can't really unlock your phone. So being able to press this has been super helpful, plus battery life. This has been a great purchase. Here's one I wish somebody told me earlier. I've been using these Lexar memory cards for a while now. They're fast enough for most photography use. On the Sony that I was recording video with previously, they were also fast enough, but now I've been recording more video on the Canon EOS R. And it turns out these Lexar cards that I have so many of are kind of slow. The write speeds don't always keep up with the higher bit rates of the Canon. So I've been switching over to Sony's. I never thought I could love a memory card, but these tough cards are made of a completely different material. I've been thinking about them like a unibody design. It's like they're all pressed from a mold. So they are a lot more weatherproof, waterproof, everything proof, but they also have incredibly fast read and write speeds. Like if I look at the Lexar, it just says 150 megabytes per second on the front of it. I don't know if that's read or write, whereas the Sony clarifies 300 megabytes per second read, 299 megabytes per second in write. But these Sonys are definitely a premium card. They're also very expensive, so that's why you don't see a whole bunch of them in here. What is a little more affordable, this is my real recommendation, everybody take a look at, is the M series of Sonys. I just picked up a couple of these. They are not as fast, 277 megabytes per second of read, 150 megabytes per second of write. The point is, Sony will be the brand I'm going to be trusting for my SD cards from now on. Goodbye Lexar and SanDisk. Following the theme of memory card speeds, this is a Satechi USB adapter that I've been using. I think I recommended it on a video or two, and it has an SD card reader in it. So I've been using this quite a bit. Recently, I did some speed tests between this one and this, which is also Satechi. You would think they'd be effectively the same, right? Build quality is the same. They're both available on their website right now. The prices aren't that different. But it turns out this dedicated SD card reader is insanely faster than this USB port. So this is what I'm going to be using from now on. And unfortunately, it means I can bring both of them with me. And if you're noticing that there's something fuzzy on the back of this, it comes to my next favorite thing that I did recently is to make a mess of my laptop. This is something I knew that I wanted to do for years, and that's just to add Velcro to the back of it so that I can attach hard drives most of all. But on a MacBook Pro that only has USB-C ports, it means that I can always have a card reader by just plugging it in, and there it is available. So when I open up my computer, everything is attached and contained. And I know this looks kind of awkward and clumsy, but I can't tell you how many times I've had cables come disconnected in the middle of working, especially downloading photos, and one of these comes unplugged and the whole thing is disrupted, and that's when you're most likely to lose your work. I also put Velcro on this one, so if I need to add those USB-A ports. I've started using the Samsung T5 for all of my active video projects. This is 2 terabytes. It stores anything that I'm working on. When I'm done, I offload it to the Synology, and then internally on the 2 terabytes in the computer is where I store all the active photography that we're working on. And then when that's done, it gets transferred to the Synology and to backups. Also, I got some stickers. Okay, moving on. Oh, a little more in the laptop area. I have been so happy that I got this tiny little RAV power adapter. So when you go to the description below to find the links for all this stuff, you may notice this is only a 61 watt charger, and this laptop, 15-inch MacBook Pro, this takes a lot more than 61 watts. It's like 80 something. And I know the new 16-inch is 95 watts. The weird thing is I have found that it can just keep powering it in most situations. Even exporting video, this seems to keep charging. I don't understand how. I bet there are situations where it couldn't keep up, so I wouldn't want this to be my only charger. But let's just pull out an old Apple charger for comparison. The size difference is very significant. So You know, even if there's some situations where this wouldn't work, I'm glad to be able to throw this in my backpack for just being kind of on the go, and I know that it's still gonna work. On a bigger trip, when we're traveling for a while, I'm gonna bring a big charger just in case, but I've been using this a lot. And when will Apple have an official one of these? Because that'd be great. By the way, this is just one of those things that is giving me some faith that the USB-C future we were promised is happening, where one cable can do a lot. I want more of this, please. And we're about to get into some of the more like production-y type stuff. But first, I want to tell you about Squarespace. You've probably already heard that Squarespace is the best place on the internet for creatives to host their portfolio. But why? What makes it different? Well, not only are their professionally designed responsive templates easy to customize to fit your brand, but if you're showcasing your video production, you can also customize the thumbnails. So let's say you're using Vimeo to host them. That's what I like to do because you get a little extra control. You can remove all the Vimeo branding. You don't know where these videos are being hosted. It just looks like it's part of your website. And then that custom Squarespace thumbnail actually helps the page load more quickly because it's not loading any of the external scripts from the hosting company. And the same goes if you're hosting a photography portfolio. You upload very high quality photos and it downsizes the ones that it's giving the user, but they still look great and you have access to those high quality originals. I was about to show you on my laptop, but I realized it's dying, so let me just plug this in. What was I saying? Oh yeah, that Squarespace is where you want to host your website on the internet. Go to squarespace.com, create a free trial account where you can experiment with all their features, see why they're great for creatives. And then when you're ready to sign up, go to squarespace.com/Tyler Stallman and use offer code Tyler Stallman, and you'll get 10% off your first website or domain. So thanks again to Squarespace for supporting this channel. But let's get back into it. Actually, wait, no, first I want to talk about this over here. This is a light. Did I really need to say it's a light? You can see that it's a light. But it is from D&O Lighting. And it's a pretty recent addition to the studio, but it found its home in here right away. What I like about it a lot is, so right now it's actually at only 8%. That's what it's been doing this whole time. When you crank it, it's got a lot of output, but it is also bicolor. And if we spin it around, let's dial that in a little. You can see that it's already softened. There's like a panel over the LEDs here, so you don't get that little speckling that can happen sometimes from panels. Usually, I like cob lighting, meaning a single source, but the diffusion here works pretty well. So as a backlight, I don't feel like I need any modifiers, or I can just put a single piece of diffusion in front of it and it's super soft. And then they also sent me this pretty awesome accessory with it. This is a 900 watt hour battery. I didn't know such a thing existed. And they give it to you in this net, which you can hang on the light stand. It's insanely heavy. You definitely can't fly with it, but it's really cool. I mean, what I've been doing with it lately in the studio is just plugging this in, putting it in its net, and then I just hang it on this rolling light stand, and we can just move it around anywhere and there's no cables to trip over. But since I talked about that new one, which I actually haven't used as much lately, I've got to mention my absolute favorite light of the year, which is the APUTURE 300D Mark II. And I did already make a whole video about it, and it's lighting me right now, so I can't really bring it over here, but I absolutely love this light. I think that if you're thinking about getting a less powerful, like the, say, 120D, consider spending just a little more money to get something more powerful so that you can add more levels of diffusion or light up a bigger area. Speaking of diffusion, a bonus that I'm gonna add here, I've been using this roll of Lee filters diffusion. This is just a half white, and all I do is drape it from a C-stand, and all of a sudden I have a giant softbox. It's just a really affordable and portable way to get extremely soft light that everybody may not think about. Speaking of APUTURE, I've also been loving the AMARAN ALMW little portable LED light. So this is the one that's actually waterproof, which I haven't used it for yet, but that's insane. Mostly what I love about it is that it's just really compact, very well built. There's a lot of small LEDs out there these days, but what I've appreciated is that the quality of light coming from it is really a cut above. There's a lot of those relatively cheap little RGB panels that you can get, but I find that what comes out of them often isn't a very true daylight, whereas you can see that, like, if I mix this in with our lighting right here, it is a really clean white. Like, there's no difference in the white balance between them. Actually, that's with the diffusion, which might have a little color to it. But yeah, it's pretty white. It is a little more expensive than other LEDs its size. I mean, even APUTURE has some others that are very small and not nearly this pricey, but the performance I really feel like is worth it. I'd rather have just a couple of great LED lights than tons of cheap bad ones. Now the audio world, my absolute favorite microphones lately have both come from DEITY, which is a sister company to APUTURE. There's the DEITY S-Mic 2S and the DEITY S-Mic 2. Now, although they look extremely different in size, I mean, it's an enormous difference, they actually sound pretty similar. I mean, they're meant to kind of be paired, and I find with a little bit of EQ, you can basically get them matching, even though this one is so much longer. So the smaller one, the S-Mic 2S, has become my go-to podcast microphone on the road because it's tiny and it sounds awesome, whereas the S-Mic 2S, this is kind of my everything shotgun mic. I have just been incredibly happy with these. They're not cheap, but they perform at a much higher level than what they're priced at. I think they're a fantastic investment, and I'm going to be using these microphones for years and years to come. And one more from DEITY, because they've had a great year. This is the DEITY HDTX, which is a wireless XLR transmission system, although it's not just XLR, it also has a little input for a lav. It's part of the DEITY Connect wireless system, which I'm going to be honest, I've actually had a few problems with lately. The receiver has been cutting in and out, and they are sending me a new one. They tell me their warranty process is to just replace anything that doesn't work, and I appreciate that, but it does mean that I haven't been able to use it in the same way. But what really sets it apart is it also has a micro SD card slot in here, so you're not just recording to the wireless connection. If there's any cutouts, you still have a backup copy on your little micro SD. The way I've been using this in the studio is similar to what I was saying about the light, being able to just wheel it around with no cables. Same idea where I put this on the end of a boom, which this isn't a boom, but... And finally, a recorder that a lot of people might already be familiar with. It's been the favorite for a while, and that is the MixPre 3, but there is a new one out. This is the MixPre 3 Mark II, version 2. It looks almost identical. There's nothing really identifying it from the outside. There's a little extra grip on the wheel here, but that's actually removable. What is amazing is inside of it, it now has 32-bit float recording, which is as close as you can get to raw audio recording. I've only experimented with it a little bit, but from the samples I've tried, basically you can record at any level where things are completely peaking or they're super quiet and you still have a very clean signal. So if you're doing everything right, this will still sound great, have the good preamps that you've always had in the Sound Devices series. But now if you set your levels incorrectly or something really loud or quiet happens, you still have a perfect recording of it. I love everything Sound Devices makes. I've been using this to record the podcast lately, but it's not the right design, in my opinion, for a desktop system. There's a lot of things I would change about it, so I really hope they create something similar to their old USB Pre 2, where it plugs in directly to a computer and has an interface that's easier to use while you're sitting at a desktop. If you have any questions about any of this gear or video production in general, use the hashtag AskStalman and I'll be answering it on the podcast. So I'll talk to you guys over there.